Okay, good afternoon. This is the Thursday, May 21st, 2020 Town of Riverhead Planning Board meeting. I'll ask if you could please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
United
and to the republic
and to the republic for which it stands,
under God,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If you could please remain standing for a moment of silence to everyone who's been impacted by this horrible COVID-19 virus. Thank you. Okay, so just for the record, we have myself, Chairman Stan Carey here, Vice Chairman Ed Deniseski, Joe Bear, and Dick O'Day is out in the audience, and we have George Nanaro, who is linked in via teleconference, so he hears us and we could hear him. With that, we'll get to the agenda items. The first item today on the agenda is a discussion item for Bates and Barrel for a portable container range. Greg, that's your application.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to begin this discussion by stating that prior to the meeting, I did have a discussion with the applicant's design professional, architect Martin Sendlewski. Unfortunately, he is unavailable for us to call in, but I did relay to him that any issues that are raised at this meeting, I would relay to him and we can address it at the next meeting. He was fine with not being able to be reached by conference call.
Okay.
So what we have is a site plan application which proposes to locate an 8-foot by 50-foot portable self-contained firearm testing range at the site of an existing river-related retail site. The proposed firearm testing range is considered an accessory use to the principally permitted river-related retail use. The proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. Coordinated review is optional and in this case, not recommended. The proposed action is in conformance with the New York State DEC Freshwater Wetlands Article 24, as well as the Wild, Scenic, and Recreational Rivers Article 25 requirements, and has received approvals for both from the New York State DEC. Staff recommends that the Planning Board assume lead agency status for the purposes of SECRA review. However, staff notes that there are potential noise impacts from the firearm testing range to the neighboring residences. The project site, particularly identified as Suffolk County Tax Map 600-119-2-38, is located at 1315 West Main Street on the south side of the road and is presently improved with a 2,229 square foot single-story frame building with garage underneath, which is presently operated as the Bates and Barrels river-related retail store. The subject parcel is located within the Riverfront Corridor zoning district, which permits river-related retail uses as well as their customary accessory uses. The surrounding area is predominantly residential, with multiple residences located to both the east and the west. The property directly abuts the Peconic River to the south. The subject property was originally developed with the existing building in or around 1968 and was continuously used as a retail business known as the Fisherman's Deli, which sold bait, tackle, and rented fishing boats to the public. A building permit was issued in August of 2015 to maintain the existing residential and commercial uses and to make minor interior alterations to convert to a business known as Bates and Barrels. This building permit was completed and was issued a certificate of occupancy on August 16th, 2016. When the applicant for this specific application that we're reviewing right now made a building permit application to the town of Riverhead in March 2019, they received a denial letter from the zoning officer which stated that the building for the firearm testing was not customarily accessory to the retail use. The applicant then petitioned the Zoning Board of Appeals for an interpretation from Code Section 301-164C. The ZBA's determination, after due public hearing and consideration of the application, concluded that the Bates and Barrels is a river-related retail use as contemplated in the Town of Riverhead zoning code, and has set forth that a firearms testing building as applied for would necessarily be an accessory to the principal use. The ZBA's determination, however, did include the following condition: that the firearms testing container shall not be open to the public solely as a shooting range. facility must be used only as accessory to firearm repairs and sales. The planning board, in its review of the application, should consider how this condition would be enforced. The board may require, as a condition of site plan approval, that the applicant file a covenant on the property that restricts the use of the firearm testing container to comply with the ZBA determination. The applicant has submitted a manufacturer's cut sheet which provides some sound analysis of the impacts of the use of the proposed container range. The sound analysis considered a baseline sound reading, as well as sound readings from the discharge of a 9mm round, smaller caliber, which is typical of a pistol, as well as the discharge of a 5.56mm round, larger caliber, more typical of a rifle. While the sound levels within the container and directly adjacent to the container would exceed town code requirements for a commercial business, the sound impacts from rounds being fired dissipate as the distance from the container increases. At a distance of 25 feet away, the report shows that the noise levels from the 5.56 round is shown to be 75 decibels. However, at a distance of 50 feet away, the discharge from that same round is shown to be 63 decibels, which complies with the town's noise ordinance. It is noted that the closest residential structures to the container range are approximately 80 feet away to the east and approximately 100 feet to the west. Based on the manufacturer's represented data, it appears as though the impacts to the neighboring residences would fall within the requirements of the town code. During a site visit conducted by planning staff, it was noted that there was a wooden accessory structure which indicated that it was a porta potty. Permanent use of a porta potty is not allowed unless it has approval from the Suffolk County Health Department. In a revision to the plan has been noted that the structure, the porta potty use will be removed, and this structure will be used as storage only. Site plan also includes a proposal to screen an existing dumpster location located on the eastern property boundary. It is noted that the property boundary to the east is shared with a neighboring residence. However, the nature of the waste produced at the business does not seem to be noxious, in that it would not create, rotting food, chemicals, etc. When I did a site visit, I just noticed some cardboard boxes in the dumpster. The site plan proposes to reestablish the gravel parking area to the south of the existing building with 3/4 inch gravel at a rate of 25 pounds per square yard. It was noted during a site visit, the parking area had already been constructed. The site plan does identify the potential for 17 parking stalls, which are delineated with concrete parking bumpers. This complies with the town code requirements, as town code only requires a total of 8 parking spaces for the existing and proposed uses. During a site visit conducted, it was noted that the applicant had already constructed the concrete piers onto which the firearm testing container would be anchored, and had already run an underground electrical service to the location of the container. Pursuant to town code, the required building permit fees will be doubled as a result of the construction without benefit of a permit. In a letter dated March 5th, 2020, the town engineer had no comments on the proposed site plan, and referral of this application to the Suffolk County Planning Commission is not required. Now, while this application could fall under administrative site plan review, the planning board should consider whether it would like to hold a public hearing on the application. The application was reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, at which time there was a duly noticed public hearing, at which time there were comments made by the general public about the general use of firearm sales, which is not something that would be relevant to a site plan review in this specific instance. If the board determines a public hearing is warranted, a resolution can be prepared for the next planning board meeting, and that would schedule the public hearing for this application on July 2nd. Pending the requirement for a public hearing, there are some minor revisions to the plan that must be made prior to approvals, and the board should also consider, as I stated, the filing of covenants to enforce the use of the container to just testing.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about that. In my opinion, in firearms of any type, one of the most important things is training. I almost think we should include training as a use, because a lot of people these days, are getting firearms to protect themselves. It might be important that people have the proper education and training to make it safe. That's just a thought for the board.
Greg, how long have they sold firearms at that location?
It was converted to the Bates and Barrels in August of 2016 is when they received their certificate of occupancy, so I would assume on or around that date is when the business use commenced. Approximately 4 years almost.
So the CO that was issued, do you need any kind of licensing from the state to sell firearms?
The business is operated within the confines of the law. I know they do have, when Brad was here, he was dealing with it. They have regular checkups. I believe it's with the sheriff's office. I believe they have a hand in the permitting of a firearm sales facility. To my knowledge, there's been no violations.
Okay.
I can look into that if you'd like.
It is I'm sorry, Stan. It is a well-run organization. They've really cleaned the place up nice. I, for one, would be for an administrative decision, and I would still like to consider including training. I don't know if the board wants to discuss that, but I think training should be allowed. That's my personal opinion.
Okay, just a couple more questions I have. The container is considered portable, right? So is that deemed a temporary structure and not permanent?
It would be installed on concrete piers. I'd have to consult with one of the building inspectors to get a definition for the, what the state building code defines that as.
We can hear you, Jeff.
We don't distinguish this structure to be any different than a permanent structure, so it still have to comply with all the New York State building code requirements.
Okay, thank you. I mean, the restrictions that we may place on it in the covenants, I mean, how would the town really, police that?
I agree. I mean, that's something I've tried to consider. One thing I would, if it was advertised on a public website as, a public shooting range, I mean, that's something that would alert us, but, that's a question that I frankly don't have a good answer for. How are you gonna go in and say, well, they were just testing, or they were just, repairing a firearm? That would be difficult to enforce.
So some of the noise analysis showed that it was above the town code at certain distances, right?
Correct.
But the further you got away, it came within town code.
Correct, and I believe the threshold was at about 50 feet. 50 feet away from the container is when it came into compliance with the town code, and I noted that the residences were approximately 80 feet and 100 feet away. So at that range, they
Still
fall.
hear something.
Yeah, and that's what I'm actually getting at, because although, from a distance it may be, muted or a lower sound, just the sound of a gun shooting, a popping sound, it startles people. And, it is a residential area, so I know if I lived in that area, I'd have some concerns if I'm gardening in my backyard and, I'm 125 feet away and these popping sounds, I mean, I'd come out of my shoes, I'd like to think.
Mhm.
So, I understand that the zoning board did have a public hearing, but that was really to determine the accessory use. So I really think that we shouldn't do this administrative, and I think we should hold a public hearing.
I'm in agreement.
George, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know that we need the public hearing so much. It's an accessory use, and I read through all the paperwork, and it all makes sense. The only question that I would have is the hours of operation, just the last line item on this. I just wondered what the hours of operation would be, and, if we could somehow, find out what those are meant to be, that would be the only issue that I would have. I would think that, we should try to keep it. I don't know, I am very much aware of this property, and, I would think that, I don't have any issue with it, but, again, just the hours of operation. I don't think that they should be operating at 10 o'clock at night if they're open that much, and I have no idea, frankly, what their hours of operation are. But that's the only issue I would have.
Okay, thank you.
I have some questions.
Go ahead.
Greg, from what I gather, the range is there for people who come into the building and want to buy a gun and want to test it out. That seems to be the only use.
That's, they're purporting the use to be testing, as you said, and repair, if they need to do, firearm repair.
Okay.
tested to see if the weapon
Nothing
works.
from the public.
Correct. Like, it's not gonna be like the, the shooting range in Calverton where it's open to the public.
My
coming in and out.
concern is with the structure itself. Do you have any cross-sections of this? So I can see what they're showing as far as, insulation, soundproofing, et cetera?
It doesn't, I have a.
If you do, I'd like to see them.
It is kinda tough to read, I do have it on here, it's a little, I could get a blown up section of it for you.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to see it blown up. Also, does the structure have ventilation?
It does have a ventilation unit to take the fumes out.
Right.
Yeah,
There's an
Okay,
AC
that-
unit and an exhaust fan right on the top.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, these are regularly used units, they're used by law enforcement agencies across the country, so I mean, they do comply with all the regulations that would be required.
Did they give you any, indication of places where it's been used or it's installed?
I have not yet, I mean, that's something I could get information from the applicant, and we could see if they can provide some examples of that.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Can I interject something here? Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, George.
Greg, do we have an idea of what impact, if we could lessen the impact, for example, if we required him to put, say, a wood stockade fence or a plastic stockade fence that would block out the neighbors, so to speak? Do we have any idea, could we find out what impact that might have on that noise, the level of noise?
I mean, yeah, we can surely do that. I mean, if it's the board's desire, I mean, we can have, if sound is a significant issue, which it does seem to be, there could be potential mitigation factors, I mean, I don't know that a stockade fence would, I'm not a sound engineer, but there may be materials that could be put around it that could help in sound mitigation.
Hey, Greg, when you talk to the applicant, if maybe one or all the board members could go there when they actually fire around, we could find out for ourselves what kind of impact it really is.
But by that time, it'll be there.
Yeah, it'll be installed already, right?
It's there now.
It's there now?
That's be
Oh.
installed.
I mean,
Oh,
if,
it is?
when I was there, all I saw was the piers, I did not see the actual container. I mean, I know that the applicant has purchased this container, but I wasn't aware that it was on site. When I did my visit, there was no container there.
Okay, I'm not sure, I'll double check and see if it's there.
Okay, any other questions?
Nope.
Is it proper for us to get the ZBA minutes?
We could get them.
You know,
We could get them. So I think until we have the applicant here to answer a few of our questions and maybe place some restrictions, I think we need to decide on the public hearing. I believe, Ed, you said you don't feel we need one.
Well, if the board's for it, that's fine.
Okay, so I think we need one. Dick, your feeling? Public hearing?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes?
Okay, so, and George, you said you didn't think it was necessary,
I
correct?
didn't think it was necessary.
Okay, so three of us agree, we'll have a public hearing on it, okay?
I'll prepare the resolution for the next meeting, and hopefully we can get these things addressed before that.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is HK Ventures for a proposed industrial subdivision.
Let me just, give me a minute, I'm gonna get the
Sure.
applicant on the phone here.
Hello?
Hi, is this Keith?
Yes, it is.
Hi, Keith, this is Greg from the Riverhead Planning Department. You are live from the town boardroom right now.
Hello, Greg. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Doing well and staying safe.
Thank you. All right, so Keith, we're just gonna start off this discussion. Basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna read through my staff report for the board, give them an overview of the project. If you have any questions, or if the board has any questions, we'll save that for the end until I get through the report, all right?
Very well.
All right, thank you. All right, so the planning department has received and reviewed a site plan application proposing to develop a vacant parcel of industrial land with a phased development project consisting of a total of 425,464 square feet of industrial space, which would be divided across a total of 8 buildings, which the buildings would range in size from 49,000 square feet through 56,672 square feet with divided tenant spaces. The proposed development includes a 3,000 square foot accessory cafeteria for use by tenants of the industrial complex, as well as parking, lighting, landscaping, loading bays, stormwater management, and on-site sanitary systems. The proposed site plan application is a type 1 action pursuant to SECRA, as the project proposes physical alteration in excess of 10 acres. This makes it a type 1 action and requires mandatory coordinated review among involved agencies. Planning staff recommends that the planning board circulate a request for lead agency status for the purposes of SECRA review. Any recommendation of determination of significance is withheld pending additional information which will be submitted by the applicant and until such time that they can be present in the boardroom to make a presentation. The subject parcel is located at 4285 Middle Country Road on the south side of the road, approximately 570 feet east of the intersection of Middle Country Road and Fresh Pond Avenue. The subject parcel is located within the Industrial C zoning use district. The parcel is 30.2 acres in size and has approximately 525 feet of frontage on Middle Country Road. The parcel extends approximately 2,600 feet south from Middle Country Road. The property is generally flat with the exception of some mounds of earth and material which have been grown over with vegetation, typical in several locations throughout the site. Composition or origin of these piles is unknown, although they're likely the remnants of historical farming practices which took place on the subject property. The property shares its western boundary with the recently constructed Tractor Supply retail store site, as well as the Sky Materials C&D processing site, and its eastern boundary is shared with a farm parcel which is currently enrolled in the Suffolk County Ag Commitment Program. The parcel's southern boundary directly abuts with the town-owned EPCAL property, as well as a portion of the EPCAL recreational bike path. The applicant has submitted site plan drawings. However, there were some sheets that were omitted. Those sheets must be submitted prior to the referrals being made for the SECRA coordination process. As I understand, the applicant has been making some revisions, so they will be providing them to us shortly. The proposed industrial development on the subject parcel is proposed in a campus-style development with the uses occupying 4 separate buildings. Due to the configuration of the parcels, the buildings are oriented in a north-south direction with truck traffic, circulation, and loading areas proposed along the outside of the site along the eastern, western, and southern boundaries, with the main parking and drive aisle for non-truck traffic proposed through the center of the parcel. The project is proposed to be developed in 2 phases. Phase 1 consists of developing the northern portion of the site by creating an access point for Middle Country Road to construct the front set of buildings as identified as buildings 1 through 4, as well as construct parking, lighting, landscaping, and drainage improvements. While Phase 2 consists of developing the southern portion of the site by constructing building numbers 5 through 8, as well as additional parking and landscaping. The project site is located within Suffolk County Groundwater Management Zone 3, which has an allowable sanitary flow of 300 gallons per day per acre. The subject parcel, based on its size, has an allowable sanitary density of 9,076 gallons per day. The sanitary density allowance is only sufficient at this point to cover the proposed Phase 1 development. According to the applicant's sanitary calculations, the proposed Phase 2 development will require the purchase and redemption of 26.3 Pine Barrens credits in order to permit the sanitary density from the Phase 2 build-out. The front, approximately 500 feet of the subject site is located within the Riverhead Water District, extension number 37R, Calverton. Approval of this project will require action by the town board to extend the water district to serve the whole parcel. During a review on our GIS system, it was noted that the subject parcel is located partially within 3 separate and distinct fire districts, being Riverhead, Wading River, and Manorville. A copy of the proposed site plan and request for comments will be referred to each fire district. Jurisdiction over the site should be established in order to prevent multiple departments from reporting to an emergency call from the site. It is noted that the site plan provides a zoning chart which demonstrates conformances with the industrial C dimensional regulations. It was noted that the floor area ratio calculation was omitted and must be included on revised plans. As it stands right now, the dimensional chart identifies that the project will require relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals for exceeding the maximum impervious surface coverage. Maximum permitted is 60%, and in its current iteration, the plan identifies impervious coverage of 73.05%. In its current state, the site plan proposes a 28-foot wide two-way access point from Middle Country Road, approximately centered with the parcel's frontage. Again, site plan will be referred to the New York State DOT for their review and comments, and that will be coordinated through the secret review process. The site plan does include a note on buildings that each tenant has 10% retail space, which is permitted as an accessory use to wholesale businesses. This is an issue that will be discussed further once the applicant is able to come in and make a presentation and clarify the intent of this. At this point, staff is recommending that the planning board adopt a resolution to initiate the secret review process. This process will take 30 days after the referral is made, which will allow time for the applicant to provide the additional information. At the conclusion of the 30-day period, hopefully the applicant can come here and make a presentation, and we'll speak to the merits of the application, some of the site plan details, as well as some of the secret issues. At that point, that's a very high-level overview of the project. Does the board have any questions?
Quick question, Greg. It says a 3,000 square foot accessory cafeteria. Is that structure gonna be open to the public? Because that seems like a big cafeteria for 8 buildings.
The cafeteria, and I would almost call it a commissary. It is proposed to be accessory to the use of the industrial complex.
Are they gonna prepare food?
They would. I mean, that's an issue, I believe the applicant will address. That is something that will come up during the review process. Any conditions would be included in the approvals. I mean, that's something that we will definitely note, and we will be digging into further once we can make a full presentation.
The fact that they prepare food means you gotta go to the health department and get a food permit.
Hang on one second, Keith.
You gotta get a food permit, et cetera, and it's gonna impact severely their, density.
Yes.
Now, maybe they've taken that into consideration when they say they need 26 more credits. I don't know, but it will impact.
And that is something that we will vet during the review process once we conclude the 30-day coordination period.
I haven't seen any site plans, so I have no idea how this is set up other than what I've read here.
I will get you a
And
copy.
I see there's quite a number of plans that have been submitted.
We do have a plan here. I will get PDF copies so you can understand the totality of the project. Again, this is the first iteration. The applicant is working on revised plans. So this is just an initial submission. It will change and there will be revisions, so, but we will get you those copies.
I do have one more question.
Okay.
It said a 28-foot wide roadway. Don't they need 55 in industrial?
That would be, that's a site plan specific issue. They are making revisions to that and they are coordinating with the DOT. So at this time, I don't wanna comment on the initial iteration of the plan, but that will be addressed through our review process.
Okay. Well, unless it becomes, I guess, a private road.
It's not so much, it's not a road so much as
it's
not a road so much as an access point. They're not proposing a subdivision, so it's just serving as an access point.
So, I mean, the only questions I have, a little bit towards traffic and what the traffic impacts might be, especially with the proposed EPCAL build-out, how that may be influenced here. Tractor Supply, across street of Fresh Pond Avenue, the restaurant across the street. You know, what's the future for this area as far as traffic and development, specifically with EPCAL? So I think we would definitely have to look into that further. As far as the sanitary flow, I think Joe mentioned, how they're coming up with their calculations, but that's gonna be another area that we're gonna have to have more details on. The dirt mounds on the property, if they're gonna be doing clearing and stuff, there should be soil samples for that. We just can't take that for granted if it's gonna be carted away. And as far as the water and fire you mentioned, my plan didn't print out in color, and I know you had boundaries on it. What fire district does that mostly fall into?
So
Riverhead.
the majority of the property falls into the Riverhead Fire
Okay.
District.
By far, or?
I would say probably
Yeah, by far.
Okay.
65 to 70%.
At least 2/3.
Yeah.
Yeah, as far as needing a water extension, isn't there public water run along that whole area, or it doesn't include the whole parcel?
It doesn't include the whole parcel, it's just the front 500 feet.
Got it, okay. All right, so, I mean, George, do you have any questions or anything?
No, we need some more information on what's going on here. I mean, you know, we have this huge business with, and then we want 3,000 square feet for a cafeteria. What are they, you know, who's going in there? You know, I'd like to get some more information.
Okay, well, I mean, we'd certainly have them here so they can make a presentation to us,
Yep.
before we take any
Yep.
further action, other than the secret. Dick, do you have anything?
No, I just, did they not make a comment that any eating place is a distance away, in this application, that's why they're enlarging a cafeteria situation?
I mean, that was comment made by the applicant, being that there are not many food establishments in the area.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's something we can get into, the size of the building. All of these issues are duly noted, and,
Okay.
we've got the applicant on, and I'll relay some of them. Keith, have you heard the questions that the board has raised?
I have, and the only thing I have to say is reiterate that, the cafeteria will not be open to the public. I do want, to thank you for your staff report and the very thorough nature of it, but I also want to point out that this particular, area has been identified as an opportunity zone by the U.S. Department of Commerce, and that was what initially led us, to the idea, not to mention, the abundant need for, this type of facility, in this portion of Long Island.
All right,
Okay.
all right.
So, we have the resolution for type 1 action tonight, right?
Correct, we have a resolution to classify the action and to initiate the 30-day coordinated review process.
And hopefully, we can have the applicant in here sometime in the very near future, hopefully after the 30 days, and we could get a formal presentation and have the PDFs available to the
Yep.
board.
That was the intent of this meeting, to just start that 30-day period. No sense in, with everything going on, waiting.
Right.
So we could start that. The 30-day period would end roughly at the end of June. Hopefully, I believe they've been working with SHPO on some archaeological information, which they said should be ready around July. So once we've gotten everything that you requested, I'll compile a comprehensive report, and we can come in and actually have a thorough presentation on it with the applicant present.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board?
We look forward to doing that in early July.
Nope.
He looks forward to doing it.
Yep.
Okay, great.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Keith.
Thank you, everyone.
Take
Stay
care.
safe.
Okay, next item on our agenda, we do not have any public hearings. As far as public comments, Carissa, we didn't receive any emailed comments from the public on anything, right?
No, no comments on resolutions or on items on the agenda.
All right, thank you. So, with that, we'll take up the resolutions.
I have a question on the first resolution. Is this just, the number 30, is this just the secret determination?
Correct, yes, for the Empirical residence.
All right, sometime later we'll get into actual site plan.
Yeah,
Or
I believe
or
they just
360.
need the ZBA so that they could, I'm sorry, they need secret so ZBA can act.
In that case, I'll move resolution number 30 for secret determination for the impropriety residence, chapter 219.
Second motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 30 for the impropriety, chapter 219. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that resolution is approved, 5-0.
I'll move resolution number 31 for HK Ventures. So moved.
Second.
Second?
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve resolution 31, HK Ventures, type 1 action for Seagro. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, resolution's approved, 5-0. third one?
I'll move
I'll move
resolution number
resolution
32.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, George.
I'll move resolution 32, Aqua by American Beach, grant the administrative site plan approval.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded by Member O'Day to approve Resolution 32 for Aqua by American Beach, administrative site plan approval. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Resolution passes 5-0. Okay, again, no public comments. Meeting minutes from May 7th.
I'll move the minutes of May 7, 2020, so moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded to approve the minutes of May 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Minutes are approved. Any other business for the board? Questions?
A quick question, Chairman, the June 4th meeting, do we know, is this gonna be the same format, or?
Well, I hope it to be. I think this worked out well. We're all very separated here. I mean, I feel safe with my mask on. Things seem to be heading towards a slow reopening, so for now, I think we'll plan it in the same manner, without the public. Again, if there's a couple applicants that we want to get on the phone, I think it's important that we try to keep things moving along here. I don't agree with completely shutting down government.
Right.
A lot of people have a lot of money at stake on applications and loans pending and banking, and to completely shut down is just devastating, not only for Riverhead, but the economy. So, as long as we can conduct our business safely, I mean, I feel safe. I don't see any reason why we can't at least keep a few of these applications moving forward.
Agreed.
Okay?
Just a question, Greg. You gave me this little cross-section, because I didn't have it in my staff report. Can I keep this?
Yeah, you can get it. And I'll get you another PDF copy where you can blow that up.
Good.
Okay, motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, be safe,
Aye.
everybody. Thank you.
Yep, be safe.
Be safe.
Okay, George.